Alrighty, I'm going to give a bit of a breakdown on the MA versus MV debacle in the best way that I know it, which isn't that much, but I've done some digging and I've found out about as much as I think I possibly can. And I'm going to break it down here for everybody in as simpler terms as I possibly can. So the disagreement between MA and MV appears to be over the new constitution that MA are putting forward. Now, the way it works is that MA is like the head of the company. And in the lower parts of the company, like marketing and finance and products and development, are the states, right? They're the governing bodies. They look after their patch of land, and MA look after the whole thing entirely. And they issue the insurance and the broader framework and the broader rules and any overseas dealings and things like this. Now, it's MA's job to put forward the constitution. And basically what they've done is try to get it up to date with the 21st century. It hasn't changed for a long time. Now, the constitution is no different to, say, what you would see in the United States. It has all the rules and the framework, and it's like the identity of the country. It's the guidelines that they all operate under, and it's essentially what makes up the country. Now, sports are no different. In America, you might recognise things like the right to bear arms and the right to freedom of speech, and that presidents can only be there for 4 years, and they've got the House and the Congress and all these sorts of things, right? They're all a part of the Constitution that was put there by the Founding Fathers. Now, MA have put forward a new constitution, and from what I understand, it's just to get it up to date with modern times. And 6 of the 7 states, everybody but Victoria, have agreed to that constitution. I did hear rumblings that Tasmania and Western Australia were a little bit on the fence and there were some disagreements, but they got it sorted. And Victoria have basically said, we're not going to agree with this. And that is where the sticking point is. Now, what exactly it is inside of the constitution, to me, that is the real question here. What actually is it they are disagreeing on? And in my experience in things like this, usually the most transparent side, the most open side, the side that is pushing it, is the side that is correct. Because if you have a leg to stand on, if you have a good argument, you're not afraid to say it. And MA has been pretty vocal, pretty forthcoming, pretty transparent with all the things that are going on. They've said MV don't agree to the constitution, but MV have not really told us what that is. Now, I have heard rumblings that it's possibly about the term limits of the board in MA. They want to extend it from 4 years to 10 years. I've heard a couple other things, but I really am just speculating on that. I don't exactly know. And this is where I would encourage MV to come out and say what it is you don't agree with, because the best way to win an argument is just to get the vote of the people, get everybody on your side. And the way you do that is by having the best point. If you say the most truest thing and you're trying to do what is right and you're representing the people, then typically you'll win. But MV hasn't come out and told us what that is. So for that reason, personally, I feel like I'm leaning a bit towards MA, but purely just because the other states have all agreed with whatever it is in this constitution that they've put forward. MV don't. And that sort of leads on to the further part that I've got pretty good knowledge that it's very personal between the MV board, the MA board. The current MV CEO has been on stress leave for a long time. They don't all quite get together. MA want the MV board out. The MV board doesn't want to agree to what they're asking. They're not going to leave. And that is where we get to the point where MA, who looks after all of the insurance and provides that to the states, has said, look, if you're not going to agree, if you're not going to fall in line, then we're going to take away your insurance. And if we take away your insurance, now you don't have anything. And this is where the, I guess, point of contention is. But that's not the issue. The issue is what is being disagreed on within that constitution and who's in the right. Is there something in there that's unacceptable and shouldn't be there and doesn't represent the riders and the clubs at the end of the day? Or is it MV that just have a personal beef and are trying to make it difficult? I don't know. That's the part where we really need MV to come to the party here and just lay it out there. If you believe you're right, if you believe you're true, if you believe you're correct, just say it. And if you get the support of the people, you'll probably win the argument. But essentially, from the best of my knowledge, this is all it is over. It's politics at its finest, and it does happen in sports, no different than what it would in countries when they have their individual states. You might remember Dan Andrews beefing with the Prime Minister during COVID and things like this. It's no different. There's finances at play and there's rules and regulations and duties and responsibilities, and they basically try and figure out exactly where the lines are, and there would appear to be a line here that's a bit of a grey area. Now, hopefully it does get sorted, because for the riders and for the clubs who basically the states and MA are just there to serve, I don't see how this benefits anyone unless we actually know what's going on. But at the end of the day, we don't really need to know what's going on, because when it becomes, as part of the constitution that's currently in play, the vote that will happen between MA and MV, I believe, will be from the board, and the board is elected by the club delegates and the lifelong members. Now, that may not be exactly correct, but it's not the people. It's the head of each club votes in the board of MV. The board of MV vote, along with all the other states, on what happens at MA, along with MA's votes as well. That may not be exactly correct, but you get the principle. So this could all just happen behind closed doors, and the riders would not know much about it. And whether that's right or wrong, that's just the way the current constitution is. You know, in Australia, we all go out and vote, we get what we want, but then the Prime Minister will just make up any rule he wants without the vote of the people. So it's always a sticky point, democracies in this sense, and it's no real surprise that there's an issue over it. MA definitely has the upper leg with the insurance. They can basically say and do whatever they want. And that's that. Hopefully we get to find out what is being disagreed on in this constitution. It's currently 2 o'clock on Friday afternoon. I'm making this video. I've heard an email will come out from MV very, very shortly.